Melvin Focal and his wife, they're zooming for the council meeting. Whatever she likes.
Okay, smart. Okay, smart.
Her. And she was looking like, and she gave it to Melvin. Now it's on Melvin. They driving somewhere. I don't know where they at.
Very.
Tell them you'll be there that night.
May move across my legs before. I may move across my legs by the time I get.
We try to go to this thing. Well, that's not. Just put it up, right?
This one feels good.
Instant relief. Instant relief.
Generally, song teacher Luke. You know. Huh?
Which I don't care. I said, I don't care, but I just want you to know that. I told her about that. I think I told her about that. Sloan's teacher this year. We were talking. She said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "Monroeville." And she said, "My sister used to teach there." And I said, "Really? Who's your sister?" It was that basic art teacher. I think her name right now. It's big. She was friends with Darby, Lisa, and I can't think of her name right now. But anyway, that's her sister. And so I said the name, and she said, "Yeah, that's my sister." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, tell her." I said, "You don't even have to remember my name." I said, "Just tell her that the wife of the barbecue guy." "Oh my God, I know the barbecue. I've had the barbecue." I'll remember the girl's name in a minute. So I said, "Small world." Still. What's going on?
last night because it hadn't started, but I don't know why it's.
Hello?
Say hello.
Hello.
Hello? Looks like somebody's going down the road.
Yeah, I've been all shot up today. I'm coming back.
All shot up.
Yeah.
Yeah, my
Fix
son.
these bad knees I got.
Oh, okay. My son today was in a real live, unfortunately, bystander in the middle of a police chase on Highway 400. We believe a guy was killed in it. It was terrible.
Larry, how you? Good. Mr. Rush? Jeremy McMahon. I know your dad.
Oh, okay.
Face to face.
I want you to hit that green button. The option to share that screen. Okay. Let's see.
Once we get off, my sister may lose your service. I tell them that may drop out, may come back.
Okay, good afternoon. Then we have a forum. I know Ms. Delma stepped out. She should be right back in. Oh, she's right. Okay, all right. But I'd like to go ahead, you got a lot of stuff to look at. I'd like to go ahead and get started with the work session. First up, last council meeting, we discussed about franchise engagement agreement. And I asked Mr. Greg Anderson to come through and explain about the franchise engagement agreement. You know, where the city stands as far as selection of franchise fees. So, Mr. Bender, if you're ready.
I'm ready. One thing, Mayor, I just would like to ask Tamika if she could share the screen, if I can share
Just
the.
a second, let's see if we can get your volume up.
Mr. Fender, do you have your volume up, unmuted?
Let me see, am I muted? Let me see, am I muted? Uh,
I'm hearing you fine.
you hear me fine? Did y'all hear me now?
Okay, just a second.
So you can. So it's on there. It's
Yeah.
on the city council.
I told him I heard.
Okay, everybody hear me?
I can hear you on the road.
Okay. All right, Mayor, am I good to go?
Okay. Let him know we're not hearing him, man.
Right.
Mayor's-
It's the green button. Hit the green button. Okay, all right, let me hit the green button. Nope. Okay,
Mr. Melvin, can you hear us?
I can hear fine. I can hear him fine. I can't hear y'all real good.
I don't know why.
You have a chance to say something.
Greg, our volume's not working. Hold on just a second.
okay, now I might could use hand language, sign language.
All right, Mr. Fender, can you try it again?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
No problem.
okay, now do you think we could also share the screen? No, says the screen's disabled. Host has enabled me. I mean, if I can do this without this sharing the screen if I had to. Okay. What I want to talk with everyone about real briefly is we're trying to help the city with two items. One is Frontier Telephone. Frontier Telephone has not, to my knowledge, ever paid the city a franchise fee to operate in the city. And in Alabama and Mississippi, you have almost right after the Civil War, you had AT&T or Bell South, formerly Bell South, was granted an exclusion under each state's constitution to basically where the telephone company, each state at that time was very rural states. And they basically said to Bell South, you got this newfangled invention, the telephone. And if you will come and provide that telephone service to our states, then we will not require you to obtain a franchise or to pay any franchise fee to a city. That bargain or contract still exists today, only with AT&T. And all the other telephone companies in Alabama are required, if the city wants them to pay you compensation for the use of the right of way. Now, I sent to the mayor a little while ago the actual elements of the Alabama Constitution that basically says that no one can use your right of way without the city's permission. And it also goes on to say that you should not discriminate against anyone that's using the right of way. Everyone should pay for the use of that right of way. So let's take, for example, if we're in Monroeville today and you had a black wire running down the side of the street, and that was Mediacom, well, they're paying you 5% for the use of providing cable to video services, telephone and voice over IP and data services. And that's all going through that black wire. If you had another black wire that's owned by Frontier running right beside it, which they do, then that company's providing you telephone services and they're not paying you anything for use of that right of way. So we estimate the franchise fees the city's losing, and this level will go down each year because more and more people cut the cord to the old telephone service and go with wireless telephone. But we estimate if you've got 60% of the town, if they use the old telephone lines in their homes, or in businesses, you're probably losing about 30,000 a year by not having a franchise in place that would charge them 3% for the use of the right of way. And it's just a cost of doing business that companies should be paying you for the use of the right of way, but you need to go to them and you got to have them enter into a franchise agreement. And that's one of the things we can help the city with. The other piece the city wanted us to look at was a company called Southern Light. They have a franchise in your city, but it's expired. It expired in 2019. It's been going from month to month. I know their attorney pretty well. He's originally from Fairhope, Alabama, and he works out of Mobile. And the company that he worked for is called Unity Fiber. They acquired Southern Light. And what I was going to show you, if I could share the screen, I don't know if that's not, I still can't do it. I was going to show you, we have a map that shows you where all the fiber they have going in Monroeville, and you can see that, and you could also see Windstream has some fiber there in the town. So, but that fiber with Southern Light is showing the way your agreement's worded. It says that they should be paying you on gross revenue. Again, I believe it's let me see, I've got it right here. I've got the Southern Light franchise. If we go to that really quick, it's 3%. They are supposed to pay you 3% of the gross revenue they receive, or $2,500 a year, whichever's greater. So what they've been doing is paying you right at $2,500 a year. And I just, if you look at that fiber that's in Monroeville that they have, I doubt I think you should do an audit to determine, are they paying you correctly? Because magically, they've just been paying you for many years now, this $2,500 every year. So my guess is they have more customers that should generate more revenue than that. So I would recommend that you do an audit first, then you negotiate a new agreement. And that is something we can help the city with. We provided you a proposal that we would charge no more than $8,000. That's the top that we would charge. And that would help you with both the telephone company, Frontier, and also Southern Light. Now is called Unity Fiber. And with that, I'll just turn it, if for some reason it looked like we were going to incur more costs, I would have to come back to the city to have your permission before we would do anything beyond that. And if we go in and do an audit and find that Unity cooperates with us and they turn over the information in a timely manner and it's not very difficult, we could reduce the price. But I just want to let you know if some of you have never met me, but I actually helped the city years ago negotiate the Mediacom cable franchise there, and we have worked with the Alabama League since 2002 for almost 20 years, and we've helped, I'd say over 100 cities in Alabama with various issues like this. And so you may know the mayor the president of the council, what's his name, Ryan Jack, down in Fairhope. We do a lot of work right now with Fairhope. Jack, I can't think the last name all of a sudden, but the council president. And but anyway, we do a lot of work with cities on helping negotiate cell tower leases and water tank tower leases and things like that. So I'll turn it over to you, Mayor, and any of the council members that may have any questions.
Any questions?
Of course, you do know now that Frontier is or was in bankruptcy, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And because even if they're in bankruptcy, doesn't mean that they can get by without paying you rent for the use of the right of way.
Well, okay. Well, and I'm gonna just be upfront. It's my opinion. We've got a procedure in place already to deal with franchisee. So, I just, you know, I don't see where, usually when you go up on those companies, what ends up happening, you end up increasing the cost for the users. And, you know, just looking at the agreement, what I've seen, you're gonna make $8,000 and the citizens in Monroe is gonna get a price increase. That's just my opinion.
Okay, I appreciate what you just said, and I will just say this, just so if you think about it, I've been in this business since 1993, and if you thought cities with a franchise fee, let's say a franchise fee on cable, if the cities tried to hold, say, if they tried to make it 0 or 3% on cable, thinking it's going to hold the prices down of cable, well, then I guess we failed, because we've seen cable do nothing but go up, 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 all prices, and all these companies are going to maximize their revenue for whatever they can. And so the city on the other side running its business, I mean, there is costs to acquiring that right of way and maintaining it right away, and the regulations that go with it. If they do a street cut, you've got to replace that street, and it's lessen the life of that street. So there is a great cost to the city to use that right away. Let a company use it for free, that's a for-profit company. I don't think it's in the citizens' interest to do that. And so, but anyway, that's just another point of view.
Yeah, that's just my opinion, and I only have one vote. But the price structure you gave, if all three of the people that you have listed, if they work 1 hour per day on this, that's $945. And you're talking about $8,000. I mean, so you're gonna work 8 hours, basically.
No, sir. It'll be more than 8 hours.
Well, $945, that's about almost $1,000, and you're gonna charge us $8,000, so.
Well, our fee is normally $300 an hour. So, you know, if I'm looking at $8,000 and you divide that by 300, I mean, it's about 27 hours.
Yeah, but there were 3 people listed on there, and the total of those 3 was $945.
Well, sir, you don't always use the attorney that's included. You use him when you need him, and we're hoping for the most part we will not need him, not to a great extent. We would only use Brian Grogan if we came into a very difficult situation where we need an attorney to help us move the ball forward. But that's, I mean, we try to use the most economical way to help the city. And in this particular case, we'll use a gentleman named Tim McGraw to help with doing the audit and of Unity Fiber. Tim, I mean, a lot of cases generates a lot more money than what it costs the city.
Mr. Fender, are you saying that Frontier and Unity are collecting these fees from their customers and not remitting them to the city?
I couldn't quite hear what you said.
Are you saying that Frontier and Unity are collecting the money and not remitting it?
What I'm saying is that you have no franchise with Frontier. There is no requirement for them to pay the city of Monroeville anything. So, it would be interesting to see if you saw their rates in Monroeville and to compare that to another city where they do pay a franchise fee to see if your rates are any different. Let me give you a quick example of what I'm talking about. Let's say Comcast, one of the largest cable companies in the world, when they do their national budget, they know who they have to compete against is DirecTV. Well, they know that the majority of cities in the country charge 5% franchise fee. When they do their budget, they're calculating that they're going to pay a 5% franchise fee. If you have 2 or 3 cities, small towns, then that's money in the pocket. But you have a situation where Frontier's not paying you anything. Unity Fiber is only paying you the minimum required.
Yeah.
And they were.
Yeah. Like me collecting sales tax, not paying.
Okay?
Brandon, to help us make a decision, would it be possible if you took another city that Frontier provides the services to and give us a comparison to the service that they're providing to Monroe?
Well, we would probably be, what we could do is send you a list of cities, for example, with CenturyTel. We've helped a lot of Alabama cities that are served by CenturyTel. We're not too familiar with too many cities in Alabama that's served by Frontier, but we could certainly show you a lot of the small towns that we were able to help implement a franchise fee in other communities. And some of those are smaller than Monroeville. So, but you at least get an idea of what kind of revenue that the telephone franchise fee is providing.
Okay. We have any other questions for Mr. Fender?
And Mr. Fender, I wasn't clear on the services you would provide. You're talking about doing all this work, right? There wouldn't be any work on our part.
That's correct, sir. There would not be any work on your part. The only thing is what we do in some cases, we have to draft a letter for the city to put on your letterhead, where it may have to go to Frontier and say the mayor and council has requested that you enter into a franchise. Here's the franchise agreement this city is proposing, and of course we would clear that with you before we sent it to them. And then once they had that franchise, if it got to a point where the company wasn't going to cooperate, we would ask you to help us with the enforcement of the state law. But that's the worst case scenario. I don't see that happening. I think this company should know that it's common for a city to have a franchise in place. And I mean, what Monroeville has right now is more the exception to the rule. You're one of the few cities I know that doesn't have a franchise for a telephone company that's operating in your city. So they've been getting a pretty good deal to use the right of way for free. I mean, that would be like my son and I saying, okay, we want to come there and start laying cable in Monroeville's right of way and ask you to let us do it for free and use the land for free. I mean, that's the same thing. It's no different. And so, I mean, it's a cost of doing business. This companies should be paying you for the use of the right of way, and that franchise fee stays home, and you're able to use that money to help support your city operations.
One more quick question. What percentage chance do you think we have of getting at least 8,000 back?
Oh, extremely good, because just on the Frontier alone, you're going to generate at least 30,000 a year. So you'll have that money back within a half a year.
Would you be willing to do a performance-based contract?
Yes, sir. I mean, on something like that, but I don't think that's in the city's interest to do a performance-based contract. I mean, you're dealing with a franchise fee that's really a guarantee to the city. And you just got to trust me. I can give you a list of all our clients, and you can just throw a dart at the whole list. We've helped, I guess, over 600 governments in the Southeast, and I would welcome you to call anybody, and I think they would tell you that we're good. And call the league, the municipal league. You can either former executive director Ken Smith or Greg Cochran or Lori Lynn. I think they can tell you a little bit about our history there. But you don't want to do a contingency type agreement on something like this.
All right, we thank you, for the information and hopefully they'll go through and we can come up with a decision this afternoon. All
Okay,
right.
well, thank y'all, and I hope we were able to help you. All right, bye-bye now.
No, I just know what happens when the garbage fee goes up and down. Or when folks start getting a price increase on the phone bill. Cable bill.
So no frontiers in that, where they can buy service down there, maybe we can talk to that one and see what they're. The Camden also, the Camden, and see if they have franchise fees, but it does for them. So, I guess that's something that we can go back and check into, and we don't, until we get that information, we could carry it over to the.
If they get from the same.
Okay.
Like, who knows?
Okay. All right. We'll move on to, we've got Paxton and Jeremy here from Silver Southeast to talk about that.
Thank you, Mayor. We're gonna be quick. Y'all got a lot to cover today. Before I get started, Ms. Thelma, I'm gonna pick on you a minute. Just want to let you know, today's Jeremy's birthday. And he said all he wanted was to come over here and see Ms. Thelma.
Look for a birthday song here in a minute.
Exactly. This is news you probably already heard. The city's been awarded $640,000 from AlDOT to complete sidewalk improvements along South Alabama Avenue. This project we talked about back in May, I believe it was, when we submitted the application. That project just got awarded, like I said, $640,000 from AlDOT. You'll have a resolution before you tonight to enter into a contract with Civil Southeast to perform the engineering design services for the project. As long as that goes smooth, we plan to push the project along fairly quickly and get it to construction as soon as we can. One thing to keep in mind is we did some preliminary work on this project, and that's reflected in the agreement. So survey and a little bit of the engineering design has already been paid for by the city, and that's reflected in the agreement that we sent over to Ms. Meeker. Any questions or concerns?
It looks like you got, everything in here that we discussed. I know, Councilman Poco brought up about extending sidewalk from Poplar Street down to Piggly Wiggly because of the
Yes, sir.
traffic, and that got approved.
Yeah.
And, all of the other really connects downtown with everything all the way out to the bypass.
That's right.
And all that's approved there.
Yes, sir.
I think everything that we asked for based on the town hall meeting that we see.
Yes, sir. Everything that was presented at the town hall was submitted in the application and was funded in the project.
Would it be a future grant possibly to run this side of the road from Piggly Wiggly down to where Whetstone connects?
Absolutely. Yes, sir. So I mean, the TAP program is for the most part a yearly program. That's definitely something the city could look to do in the future.
The engineering services are 64, the whole thing is 64,000.
That sounds about right. I don't remember the number off the top of my head. It's on that sheet of paper there. They're, I can't remember. Jeremy can look. It's right there.
So the right-of-way search and environmental was 6, and the engineering design 64.6.
And those numbers are gonna match exactly what we discussed at the town hall. And was included. in that.
For it, 7,600.
Right. You got any questions for Paxton and Jeremy?
Are you working on the grant for the sidewalk?
So we have not looked at a future project, but that will be coming up fairly soon. We expect AlDOT to do the same thing this year. We don't know that for sure, but hopefully they'll take applications again in 2022. And somewhere around the spring of the year, we can start looking and scoping potential future projects. Yes, ma'am.
is that program only for brand new sidewalks, or can it be for rehabbing ones that are like almost recessed in the ground?
Yeah, that's a good question. A couple of years ago, they really were looking for just brand new sidewalks, but we've actually seen where they funded some replacements. If you'll see, there's a green line on the map that actually includes, and that's kind of a contingency in case we have some money left over, and it was approved to go in and replace some sidewalks, tear out old sidewalks that are cracked or whatever it may be, and actually replace those with new sidewalks. But yes, sir, in the future, we could apply for a grant to replace some sidewalks.
The one thing I would say about that, Al, is it's gotta be just a small portion of the overall project. I'm not gonna say you hide it in there, but you blend it in there.
Yeah.
If you just went after just a complete rehab, it'd get kicked out. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Brand new sidewalk.
She done got her picture.
Yeah, the pine.
Yeah. Any more questions?
Thank y'all. We look forward to the opportunity to work on the project. We're excited about it. Thank y'all for all you did.
There's a support for a motion on that was during the regular session.
Yes, sir. And we'll have just a note, a pre-agreement meeting, assuming everything tonight goes through with ALDOT on Wednesday, I believe, the next week. And then at the next council meeting, y'all will actually approve a resolution to enter into an agreement with ALDOT. But those details will come out in next Wednesday's meeting. Thank y'all.
Happy birthday, Jim.
Hey, thank you. Thank you.
We're
saying, but we on Zoom and everybody. Oh, man, y'all be getting called. Y'all be getting called from all the big boys. Okay, thank y'all. Okay, next is a presentation of audit 2020.
Melvin's on the road. Hey, guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, I see Amanda right there. Up close and personal.
I'm working this computer.
Okay. And then Melvin's on the move.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll jump right into it since you scheduled me for 4 o'clock and here we are. Do y'all have a copy of the statements there at your desk?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, it's good to see y'all. What you have in front of you is your September 30th, 2020 financial statements. And it is a full set of financial statements from a full accrual, a fund level approach, and then a budget is at the end. And we'll cover a little bit of all those elements. But I think what you need to know is that we finished our audit. And our audit opinion is dated June 2nd, 2021. And that's on page 3 of the financial reporting package. So the good takeaway from our audit opinion, the firm's opinion, is that we did issue a clean audit opinion. So it is unmodified and the gold standard of reports. So that's always the goal when you start an audit, to get a clean opinion and get that done. This year was a little different. It was different in the fact that your financial reporting required us to perform an audit under governmental auditing standards. And that may actually sound a little strange because you may ask, isn't that what you've always done? In a sense, yes, except the reporting and auditing standards were a little heightened because of the amount of federal funds that you expended. And so I'll get into that here in a little bit, but basically, we performed 2 audits this year instead of the one that has been performed in the past. It's just one's on compliance and one is on your numbers and your presentation, but I'll speak to that in a little bit. The city's in good shape. If you look at page 4, and it's called the Statement of Net Position. It's a snapshot of your assets, liabilities, and the remainder, which is called net position. And I can tell you that your net position is really healthy. The city is not that debt laden. If I just did an analysis over the amount of debt that you have it usually arises from capital acquisition, the amount of debt is only 26% of capital acquisition. So your debt level is fairly low considering your balance sheet of assets. When you come down and look at your total net position, it's $16 million, and that is comprised of your net capital assets as well as liquid funds. And just so you know, the city has, approximately $5 million in fairly liquid funds at the end of September. That's not a new trend. It's fairly consistent with prior years, but that's a good place for the city to be. When you think about that net position, what's left over after assets and liabilities, you've got a good reserve. If you look at that number there at the bottom of page 4, you have over $3 million in unrestricted fund balance, net position. And what that means is it's like a big reserve that somebody would look at and say, well, the city's healthy, it can survive if nothing happened for 3 to 4 months, because just looking at your unrestricted net position of $3.2 million, that is about 38% of an annual expenses. So again, that is a healthy reserve that any lender or analyst or any public, any private citizen should be happy to see that the city has some reserve to weather tough times. And certainly we've been through some tough times here in the last year or so, that we, even on the other side of that, the city's in good shape. I did talk about your level of debt as it relates to your assets that were purchased predominantly with that debt. Your debt service is extremely small. It's a little under $500,000 for next year, or the year that we're wrapping up now. And so if you think of $500,000 in 1 year, we have about $9 million in expenses. It's quite a fraction there. So again, that's a good positive sign for the city. I'd also say that one of your, in addition to your debts with banks or outstanding warrants or obligations, you've got a net pension liability. And so your net pension liability is approximately $2 million, but that's the net number. If embedded in one of the schedules in the back, you're 78% funded in your pension obligation. And that's within a realm that I see very commonly in a lot of municipalities and And honestly, it's a good place to be. Sure, it could be a little bit more funded, but I don't really worry about the funding status at that level. So your pension obligation is good. A lot of people ask, you know, with any business, with any entity that operates within a year, how did we do? Well, again, the city, like many others, had healthy sales and sales taxes, which helped drive a change in net position, a 12-month excess of revenues over expenses of about $2.2 million. So that's always a good sign. If you point further to a cash basis presentation, which is presented on page 8, more of a cash change in fund balance, it's $1 million. So those two things speak to each other in a positive way, that the city has weathered 2020 in a good way and come out on the positive side. So those are two things. As far as anything interesting that happened in 2020, there was approximately $300,000 in coronavirus relief revenue that did match against some expenses you had. So that was true offsets to help you weather that. I mentioned that you have multiple statements and here, and one was the budget. So the budget is on page 27. And your revenues over budget was about $1.6 million. So you beat budget on the revenue side. That's a good sign. If you flip the page to page 28 and 29, the budgetary change in expenses was good for all of the departments. So general government, from the administrative side to municipal court, nutrition, that area was beat budget by $80,000. Public safety beat budget by almost $300,000. Public works came right in at about $1,000. Culture and rec at $13,000 to the budget. Economic development had a little bit of a hit, but there was a roof that had to be replaced that I'm sure all of y'all are aware of. And then capital outlay can move on you. But overall, your budget to actual was positive by about 1.1 million. So again, budgetary control is something that an analyst or a lender or somebody in your community should be able to look at and see that that is a good thing that the city attended to. I mentioned that we had to perform a separate audit this year in addition to the audit we've always done. And so what made that happen? Well, you can look at page, and if you can't get there quick enough, it's in there on page 35. There is a schedule of federal dollars that you expended during the year. And it is almost $900,000, $889,000. When you expend over $750,000, you're required to test your major programs. And the major program that we did test was the DOT sidewalk grant. Now, the pages that follow and precede page 35 detail our opinion over general government compliance, specific compliance over the programs that we tested, your compliance over with internal control over your program. So how do you conduct your programs? And then financial statement findings that are just at a bigger level and have already been there. So it added, the reporting we did and the testing we did added well over probably 15 pages here at the end that you may not be used to seeing. It also details the financial statement findings that, that we have had in the past and carried forward this year that have not been adjusted from the prior year. So those findings are in the back there. Nothing new or but only things that are just worth looking through, understanding, and addressing those. And the city has taken a look at that and provided a response to the comments on page 48. So those comments are there on page 48. Last thing I would say is there's also a communication to the city council. In that, and it is a required communication, we go over whether or not the city has changed its accounting policies or adopted any new ones. If there were any significant or unusual transactions. We didn't have either one of those. It also goes over your accounting practices. We don't have any issues with your current practices, so that's stated there. You do have estimates over your pension obligation, and that's discussed in the financial statements, as well as audit adjustments. So our audit procedures do include adjusting the books to the financial statement presentation, both be it fund level and government wide. We did add those, and those entries are presented on page 5 and 6. Let's see, make sure I said that right. Yeah. And so you have an opportunity to look at those entries and the type of entries we posted there. Other than that, we didn't have any disagreements with management or consultations or significant difficulties. It just, getting the single audit done takes a little bit more time, and that was done this year and submitted to the federal portal. So your compliance with the reporting and filing requirements with the Single Audit Act has been completed. Well, I've gone on for 15 minutes, and I may have lost somebody. I see a couple seats missing, but I think they were missing before I started. So, Amanda, do they have any questions?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I was going back over and I went to the back, starting on page 43, where it talks about section 2, financial statement findings. And I was going through to look at some of these things to correct. One had to do with the material weaknesses that you found with municipal courts. Those are being addressed. So can you review what we're putting in place to make sure that we don't have this weakness occur again?
So, Mayor, one of the things we do when we come to begin the audit after the report here is done is we double check all the actions you've taken over our findings to see how they were cleared and if they were adequately cleared. So that is something we do in a follow-up audit. So yes, that is something that will happen.
Okay, and the other one I know that we are addressing, we talked about the separation of the funds for the fire department and police department, monies they raise and take in, that those accounts need to be separated. And that is being implemented now. So that should be at least 2 issues here on the upcoming audits that we should have resolved.
Fantastic. And yeah, we will take a look at that and hopefully be able to remove those from the list here.
One question on the pension liability, you mentioned we were in pretty good shape. I think it's 78. But you said we could do better. Where would you think we need to be in good position? Excellent position.
So it's a good question. Can you put your finger at page 31 of the statements? Then I'm gonna get you to put your finger at page 23. The top of page 23 shows what's called the discount rate. The discount rate is a common practice in a lot of estimate analysis, and it's not just pensions, it's a lot of things. It's one of those drivers that determines today's liability. It is truly an estimate, and the RSA has assigned a discount rate to everybody in their portfolio. Currently, it's 7.7%. At that current discount rate, it yields an unfunded or a net pension liability of $1.9 million. If they were to so choose an 8.7 discount rate, you can see how it slims up to 1.1 million. So it's the number to the right. If they drop the discount rate, it goes up to 2.9. So you can see how just remeasuring the discount rate can greatly impact your net pension liability or funding status. You know, the 7.7, you can look at that percent as an estimate of what the RSA thinks they can earn over time. And so your net pension liability of 1.9 is an estimate, but the discount rate is baked into a very thoughtful process. But I guess I wanted to point out the volatility of just one driver, how it could impact your funding. And almost 80% at a 7.7% discount rate, 80% funded is very in line with your historical funded basis on page 31, because at the bottom, that last section of the table shows, in going back to the previous year, it's 79.91%. The previous year, it's 80.9%. Now, you can impact your funding level by making higher elections by an employer to give them more money, but that would then take away from other priorities that the city may have. So again, at close to 80%, and that's been your experience, seems to be a good place for me. I would say this, that if you drop below a certain level, you would hear from the RSA. They would be having talks with you.
Do most cities make a one-time payment if they want to have a better number, or does it have to be done through future payrolls?
It's through payroll. He was asking one-time payment. Do some make a one-time payment to?
Yeah, you'd have to talk to your plan administrator at the Retirement Systems of Alabama, but I think there are mechanisms to make changes to increase that funded percent.
Any other questions for Jackson Thorne?
We've had tier 1 and tier 2 employees, and everybody's going back to a tier 1, isn't that correct? So how is that going to affect these numbers?
So my basic understanding of what will happen, you're going to, the employer contribution will increase, thus hopefully offsetting the liability that is projected because you will be paying more. So yes, it's going to cost you more on a cash basis to fund it, but I believe they have baked into the rates that you will be paying a plan to mitigate the obligation to get out of hand.
Any other questions? Hey, there being none, we appreciate your time.
Thank y'all.
Bye, guys.
All
Good
right.
to see ya.
I was just gonna let council know some of the weaknesses that they put in. I went through to highlight, and there was two in there that I think that we could eliminate. And I'll begin with the clerk and assistant clerk to see about some of these others. Some of them in here, you know, they've been here forever.
And some of those that you're working on, they still show up in 21.
Yeah.
But we're ending 21, so
Right.
22, it'd be 22 before we.
Okay, the next item on the agenda in the work session is trying to finalize the 21 and 22 general fund budget. And
I'm not sure which one.
Shoot my nose up. You don't know yet? I ain't had a chance to walk but from there to here.
This is an updated list of the overall of the general fund. I didn't kind of talk about all of them.
so I've gone through and working with this general fund. We're actually roughly $451,892 above where we were last. With the increase. And in that increase, the majority of it has to go through where we did the salaries and benefits based on the new posting. Now, there was some other things that were most of the departments, they had slight increases. It's because of the cost of flies, fuel, and things like that actually went up. But the other increases on there had to do, I think the biggest amount of the increase was in the defense budget. And there were two things in there that caused the cost to go up. One was a request for the blues and blankets. And the other one was a request for the sunflower festival. This is my opinion. I think that on the sunflower festival, what I would like to do is continue to provide activities out here for our citizens, things to keep them entertained. And you know, blues is one thing that a lot of people like to attend and participate in. But the sunflower festival, I'll tell you, I'm also a fan of country music. And I would like to see that kind of more directed in that direction. And I think that would provide for everybody. And what my suggestion is, you know, if we go ahead and approve them in the general fund budget, that don't mean we have to spend the money unless we approve the event. But then it's tough. question on that, if we had a proposal on what this is gonna be involved, what's gonna be involved in some process, what's actually gonna take place in the planning on, so.
Right, when the initial planning came up, I think, we got it in the budget request. And, but like I'm saying, what I would like to see, I want to offer something to all of us. And if we're going to do it, like I say, I like jazz and blues. I also like country music too. I don't know if you go back and remember, they talked about Concord in the old years on TV, and that used to be one of my favorite songs. But anyway, I would like to, for the Sunflower Festival, focus me and kind of more on that entertainment section. And, you know, we probably end up renaming it from Sunflower Festival or something. But at least, you know, we have to cover it, but what do you use for that? Right, yeah, over we covered in the budget. And, you know, as whether or not we actually do them, that will come back up to the council. Yeah.
42, 840, 892, is that the final? So we get under about 11,000. On the beat, it was 53 budget, right?
Right. It was, on the event, it was 42,892. 42,892.18 is what was budgeted. Recommended.
Yes, that's what was budgeted was 40. No. What was budgeted, I put the wrong amount, but it's the 68,145, what was budgeted for what we're in right now. I put
So
this-
that's 42,892, which is, should be 68.
That's what we spent, yeah.
But we spent 42, 8.
Yeah, we spent that much. Correct.
So a lot of things we didn't do, so.
Then also, should we not include fireworks expense in this? It's an item that drives it.
Okay.
Yeah. Do we put that in, is that included in that?
I said, shouldn't we include the fireworks expense in this? Because
That's in the general
I know it,
expense.
but it still drives. This is, event thing is driven by that.
I mean, we can put it in there, we
I
just
think we ought to have
always,
that, so we have some idea what the total, everything was in. We might look at having to cut that back in order to stay within some type of spending for it.
just the fireworks, just in the past, it's always come out of general expenditure.
They haven't been this kind of money, and the whole event thing is not becoming.
Right.
And we started at $18,000 here 60 years ago, where it is, we're now at $100,000.
Mhm.
But we're getting benefits from it, no question that. Sometimes it does reflect what that whole program is costing.
I mean, I can move the fireworks to the events, such as moving it out of the general expense to events. That's fine.
I think that'd be included. And that-
So-
that's more cost.
I don't understand what you're saying. Moving fireworks from general expense to events expense is really a wash. So you take
Yeah.
money out of
You
one
just
place.
know where it's coming from. I mean, what we're spending
Right,
on this
right,
category,
right.
because it is, that's where it's being spent.
I got you. So,
If we some point in time said we're gonna cap this, we are not gonna put any more than so much money into it, then we start doing like when people come ask money for it, where are you gonna cut?
Yeah.
And that's maybe what direction we need before it gets any bigger.
overall, by moving that, it's.
Yeah, it's not a cost us any different, it's just knowing
Just knowing where it's coming
where, yeah.
from. Right, so we put that into it. Let me see, the question there, 15.
20.
I'm like, what is it?
It's just one of
And it's not her, it's the other end ripping us off now. My opinion. My, some point in time saying, yes, it's benefit to the community, and I'm very much in favor of that, but maybe that could be a end. Yeah. Separate day. Yeah.
It's a separate event altogether. Yeah, she's not combining them, she's getting them separated. They're different days and everything.
So the deal with the line is actually, when you go back and look at it, it's pretty open. Deal with the line, like the food and some kind of stuff. We already doing one thing for Halloween. Like I said, my book is from the rooms and blankets and what you call sunflower festival. I think it's y'all do something else. You know, to go back and reflect for all these communities involved. And we include these two items in, when it comes back down to that whether or not we actually do them. We get them. But at least the funding is there. We don't have to, we want to use that, we use funding for something else. That was the, I can say, the biggest item on that we had to do with the increases from personnel items, especially during this part of the 24-hour. That's included in. And so, yeah, my intention is talking with Mr. Scott about the management thing. I'm gonna send you out the council outline of things that hopefully we can get money back and move to that from the general fund. So that's the obligation in general fund. Decrease. So, well, y'all, what your thoughts? You talking about the power steps into the event.
I did, all I'm saying is that what
is
is
actually coming?
what is actually this area is cost, is like what is public works cost. Everybody there.
So, we can do that, that's why, and like I say, the other thing that I was asking for, was approval in the general fund for the funding of the two events, then we can decide whether or not. Do they have any other? They have.
Just a comment, Mayor, on the total revenue. I don't know if we're gonna do it this year, maybe next year, we should look at maybe bumping that up. Nice. 5 years or so we've been getting $7 million.
We have the funding to actually go through the cover. That 451,000, we have the funding to cover it, but and like I say, depending on what we get from the American Rescue Plan, lose some of these expensive funding during the fund, which we need. So, if we're all in agreement, like I say, if we don't do the richest ride, but we already doing one now, we can get, that's fine.
And we can't last year, so
Right. Yeah.
weather, something on which it was.
It was raining.
So, if y'all want to consider everything on here, go ahead and approve some front budget. Or if you want to eliminate, like, hey, the Richard line, that, but we already know. But, you know, like I say, if there's no objection, we can take the Richard line out for this year and do the other, and if we have no other questions, I would move past the general fund back tonight. Next item on the agenda is if I can get a motion to enter into executive session, to discuss. It is business and commerce. Right, to discuss negotiations involving trade or commerce. I have a second. Second. Okay. All in favor? All right.